Welcome, and thank you for joining us. This is our 33rd Shining Star Ball, and although we can't be together tonight in person, it's the next best thing. And before we get started, I want to take time to thank our sponsors who really make tonight a great success. This event is foundational in our fundraising efforts. For us to do an exceptional job, we need the resources. And for our sponsors tonight, they have stepped up in a big way, as all of you had. And so before we even get going, I just want to say thank you for allowing us to be who we are. So March 13th, over a year ago, everything stopped, everything changed. COVID-19 was front and foremost in our heads and our thoughts. The leadership of Clearbrook had to make tough calls, hard decisions. The first, closing day programs, who not only just served our residents, but served people from the community. They no longer could come. Harder still was to close the doors to the homes to the extended families. At a time when their anxiety was growing, we created isolation. They could no longer reach out and touch and connect. They supported Clearbrook, even though their choice was challenging and hard. And because of that trust, that confidence, that gave us the energy and the confidence to continue to do the right thing. How did we adjust? Let's take a closer look to what we did when COVID hit.
So I think the first reaction for all of us was panic because of all of the unknown that was surrounding COVID back a year ago, and what that would mean for our individuals who are so vulnerable in so many different ways. And then quickly followed by action. What are we going to do? How can we continue to keep people safe? What are those things that we need to put into place to give ourselves the best possible chance of getting everybody through this as safely as we possibly can?
Although, we were planning and taking the necessary infection control precautions and having a backup staffing plan, we didn't know truly what was coming. And looking back, I don't think we could have ever planned for what actually happened.
When the client interaction stopped, and we really had to initially shut down and there was no client interaction, sometimes you joke about, I would just like one quiet day. And then that one quiet day came, I hated it. It was eerie. One of the big draws for GETS, I think, with a lot of people is you walk in and everybody greets you. All 200 people, hey Lauren, hey, whomever. And then it was just gone.
I was terrified that I would have 50 homes and no one would come work, and how would I do that? I don't have 50 managers that can go in an emergency. And in the face of this incredible fear, people got up and they went to work and they took care of folks.
We all look at our clients as if they are extended members of our family. So we had to do whatever we had to do to keep our family members safe.
And same with the staff, our biggest thing was keeping that energy, making sure that they were still involved and being able to still live their everyday lives without having the anxiety or the nerves or being scared of what's going to happen.
I don't think I'll ever forget that Friday afternoon receiving a call saying, that we have a choice. We can either take our children out, but they cannot come back for an undefined period of time. To be honest, my initial reaction was, are you out of your minds? And then we took a deep breath and we decided to leave Ira at his Scylla for a few days and kind of take it a week at a time.
We kept referring to it as creating the bubbles. So each one of the homes had identified staff and clients, and we kept basically everybody out of the homes other than that. Our managers often would go to the homes and they would have to peer into the windows. We were insulated for the first few weeks, which I really think bought us time to get the proper equipment and to prepare for it.
Early, my job changed pretty drastically. We were all kind of given our work to do when we went home. Within a couple days of that, everything kind of shut down, and I was tasked with inventorying all the PPE for the whole agency. We all kind of had our contacts. We all talked about those and how to, tap all of those resources, and we did. From a random contact at Wall, we were able to amass about 10,000 face shields at a super low rate. I had a contact that was from the toy industry that I knew from 25 years ago, who had contacts overseas where we got 10,000 gowns.
I put out a post on social media asking if there's any sewers in the area that are willing to make masks for us, and I explained who we are at Clearbrook and what we do. I had hundreds and hundreds of masks that were donated to me that people made.
We really did have PPE everywhere. I had no room to walk in my office because there was PPE everywhere. I'm not over-exaggerating that.
Really unbelievable how people had stepped up in the most amazing ways. Meeting a family friend in a parking lot of a Portillo's to pick up hand sanitizer and hand soap and a bottle of Lysol. It certainly looked weird, but we did whatever we needed to do in order to get the things that we needed to get in order to keep people safe.
During that surge that happened in about April, May, a lot of people were at home, but a lot of us on the programs and the operations team, we were there every day, and I was coming in sweatpants just to get out and deliver all of the PPE to all of our sites that needed them.
By the time the first case arrived at Clearbrook, we were pretty proud of ourselves and how we responded in organizing and gathering the supplies. But we didn't even know what it would be like when COVID finally hit our people.
We first started to see COVID come in the beginning of April last year. An incredibly frightening time. So those first couple cases that we had were just gut-wrenching. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know if the person would survive. We were so concerned about everyone becoming ill. And the people we serve, quite frankly, are very delicate, have underlying conditions.
We had a resident that was not doing well. She was older, has some health conditions. It really didn't appear to be anything out of the ordinary. We sent her to the hospital for evaluation just as we normally would have, and I was sitting at my desk and I got a text from the administrator of the Commons saying that that person was positive. So kind of had to take a couple minutes and think about what did this mean for that building? What do we do next? But then not too much longer after that, I got another message that another client was going to the hospital, and then he tested positive. So that was a moment when I decided we just needed to shut down the entire building and quarantine. And then it just felt like from that point on, it was one person after the next they were calling 911 for.
There was one night we called in less than 2 hours, I believe, 5 times. And every time they came back, the same paramedics, that they had to start rerouting people to different hospitals. I think that because, again, they were scared. They were like, can't you handle some of these cases there? Because they didn't know where else to take our guys. We had to say no, it's beyond our scope. We're not skilled care. We have nursing care.
We had some of our Wilkie ladies whose vital signs were not quite in the normal limits. And so we had to call 911, and they wouldn't come in the house. And that was one of the scariest things that I've ever experienced, because I didn't know how I could keep everybody safe and what I could do when those that I call aren't able to help us.
And then as people began to stabilize, then another thing we hadn't thought of is that these clients were still very sick, and we're not skilled care. And so where did they go from the hospital when they were stable enough to leave there, but still COVID positive and still very sick? Testing was not readily available. We didn't have the capability to test everyone in the facility, so we had to really look at staffing patterns and what we could put in place to minimize the movement of staff along with the residents.
So we have a varying degree of individuals that live in our homes and levels of understanding. So we really tailored our message to each individual person based on their learning styles.
If I tell you that you have to quarantine and you understand why, you understand the consequences and you'll comply more. A lot of our folks don't really know what we're talking about when we talk about these things, so we really have to work with them. And sometimes it's a matter of, if I have to quarantine you in a room, I'm gonna have to spoil you. We're gonna bring some games to your room. We're gonna bring meals to you. We're gonna try to make it a game.
I received a phone call that Ira was fine and didn't have COVID, but basically the other 3 boys did have COVID. It was a tough time for the house. It was a tough time for the staff. It was a tough time for the parents. They certainly did something right in how they quarantined everybody, because the staff never got it and Ira never got it.
If you asked me when we started what our greatest challenge Clearbrook would face, was that our staff may walk away, understandably. And when the phone started ringing and people started getting sick, to our amazement, the staff kept coming back. As people were brought to the hospital, the staff kept coming back. When staff along the side were no longer there the next day, they kept coming back.
I choose to stay, and I talked to some of the other co-workers too. I told you that you did not have to worry about me not coming to work. I will be there every day. This is my Clearbrook, my comments, and we're in this together, and I'm not gonna run away.
I was blown away at their just, like, we're here, we're gonna be in it, and everyone kind of banded together.
One young lady, Tatiana, she left her shift and went to another facility, didn't even have time to go home and get clothes or anything, and stayed with us for, I think, 4 days straight. Then suddenly we're at Target buying clothes and toiletries for staff because things were happening so fast, and sometimes they didn't have time to go home, sometimes they didn't want to go home because they were afraid they would bring the virus home, which is really how we got to the point of offering hotels for staff. They had a comfortable place to go. Everybody got their own room. They didn't have to share. That was really, I think, what they needed. Our nursing department is small. They were taking on a huge workload. We had one nurse in particular, very early on, go to stay at a hotel, and she left her 9-month-old baby with her mother. An ultimate sacrifice that she made for our clients, and she didn't see her baby for 6 weeks. Another nurse who left both of her children, and she would go home on the weekends and stand in the driveway while her kids were in the garage to see them. Their work environment changed also, so to come to work they had to put on a mask, sometimes 2 masks, a face shield, goggles, a hair covering, a plastic gown, which was really, uncomfortable. And then they had to go work for 16 hours or longer. And they did it with a smile. Without that group of staff that worked through the heart of the outbreak, I don't know what would have happened.
We work with people, and my business is very people intense. In order to work with it, we need staff that work very closely and very intimately. And we did have staff get sick, and we did have staff pass away. That was part of it. So it was a very scary time. The risks were very high for people.
Leadership staff made conscious decisions to do everything we could to support our staff. We took those steps in buying all the supplies, the testing equipment, and in bonusing our staff who are working in those dangerous environments. These measures cost over $2 million, all of it unbudgeted when we started the year. But there was no doubt in our minds these were steps we had to take to protect those people to the best of our ability that were taking on the greatest risks. Those people continued to come and provide the services and supports that families trusted us to give no matter what, and we were able to do that. And a big part of that ability was knowing that our donors, our supporters, you were going to back up our decisions with resources that would ensure that Clearbrook would not cause harms to itself in doing the right thing for its staff and in doing the right thing for the residents.
One of the things that's been so remarkable to me through all of this is looking at how people are reacting. And I've gotten a lot of compliments on how staff have responded to this. And I think there's an assumption that somehow they're not scared. And I would tell you that that's not the case. There has been a lot of fear, but there's been a lot of bravery, and I don't think you can have one without the other.
You know, early on we knew we were asking our staff to risk their lives for their job. Nobody signed up for that when they came to work at Clearbrook. And so we knew that we needed to acknowledge that, and we also knew that we needed to support our staff in this work. So we were very fortunate enough to be able to offer any staff working in a COVID positive environment double time pay. Just that acknowledgement that we know what you're doing is really hard and risky.
I think it brought us closer together. I mean, we lost a lot of members of our family, but we were able to actually bring some new members into our family, not residents, but staff from other programs. We were all in it together.
We had a plan. This is how we're gonna make it work, this is what we're gonna do, and we were all together, and then not only the staff at the Commons, but the whole administration. So that was very nice, and that's what I will always remember.
Throughout the whole challenge of COVID, our missions never changed: enriching lives and embracing potential. Despite COVID, that continued in ways that we could never imagine before COVID. The staff gets creative and they start celebrating life. They have COVID parades where in their cars they hold posters to their windows and beep their horns, and as they approach a home they call the house so the residents can come out in the front yard and have a little bit of fun.
We did a Halloween day just for fun. We did Fancy Friday, just to get people up and moving. I was Santa this year too, which
Yes.
was so much fun.
Yeah.
I came in on Christmas Day, and then having a white mask under the beard, only one client knew who I was.
They tried to do fun activities. We as parents also brought food and groceries and tried to do as much as we could, both for our boys and for the staff.
Meals were more special. Games became a big deal. A walk became a very big deal.
The residents were rock stars. I mean, having to make a change of staying home and not going to day program and then having to stay in their halls and in their rooms, I mean, truly they handled it probably better than the general public did.
Our clients always amaze me with their resiliency and their perseverance with how they handle these challenging times.
One of the big things that we were finally able to do when we had that short break in the summer where the numbers started to go down and we had the advantage of good weather is we implemented outdoor visits. A lot of tears of happiness. The summer was a really fun time to see people get together.
They invited the parents, if they wanted to come, to socially distance and be in the backyard and kind of cheer them on. And it was so much fun because that was the first time that we saw him at his house.
We brought one thing that we wanted to share because I thought it just sort of summed up the whole experience.
This was
Christmas. We did Christmas brunch in the garage, and if you remember, Christmas morning was not warm at all.
He was worried about, well, what about the Christmas traditions, things that he really liked about Christmas. So we'll work it out.
We had brunch casserole and we opened presents, and he brought out his little tree from his room and put it on the table, and we had the lights, and we did as good as we could do. And I think that kind of sums up the whole year, as you did as good as you could do.
So the game changer occurred when vaccines became available. So Clearbrook no longer was just reacting to the COVID challenge, we were taking charge. Our staff did incredible work to procure vaccines from the county and the townships and from Jewel and from Walgreens.
When thankfully one day we started to get vaccinations, we were among the first people to get vaccinations. And that wasn't by accident. That was all of us being very squeaky wheels, and we eventually got the oil. But that's because we had a lot of people really working at it.
It was a Friday in January, and I got a phone call from one of the directors over at the Commons that said, can you call this lady back from Jewel Osco? They want to give us some vaccines. But of course I called her back right away, and she said that my name had been on a list with Cook County. Cook County contracted out with Jewel Osco to administer vaccines, and somehow I ended up on their list. And so she was calling to ask me how many doses I needed, and I felt like I won the lottery. So I said, well, how many do you have? And from there it just grew, and we had so many people that fell under the 1A prioritization that we were able to secure over 600 doses. This was a Friday, and she said, okay, so we're gonna come on Tuesday. And I was like, well, okay, because I wasn't gonna say no.
I was so happy. I was thrilled. I was thrilled.
It was like Christmas morning for some people. They were like, oh my God, we're getting the vaccine.
When I found out Ira was being vaccinated, I was beyond appreciative and grateful and relieved.
Clinics were set up first to take care of those people that were living with us, the residents, and then the staff that were providing service and supports to them. But we continued to go forward. We began to offer vaccinations to those individuals that were living at home with their moms and dads and their sisters and brothers.
It was a lot of work, well worth it, but getting consents from everybody's legal guardian and then getting communication out to all of our staff to register for their appointment.
When we heard that Clearbrook was going to start with these clinics, there was a pretty overwhelming sense of excitement. If we can get through these vaccines, then maybe we can get back to the wonderful crazy that it was before.
It was the best work day ever, is all I can say. It was exhausting, but it was so worth it, and they brought in so many people to help administer the vaccines, and they were so great with our clients. What was the turning point for us? That there is an end in sight. There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
We had a vaccine clinic at the Getz building for our community clients. That was incredible, because we haven't seen the community folks in a year now. I really had to hold myself back from running up to them and be like, oh my gosh, I missed you. I kept myself together. So a ton of people from all aspects of Clearbrook came together to help with this, whether it's taking temperatures or signing people in or assisting if there's an individual who's really scared to get the vaccine.
And they went out and vaccinated people in their cars who weren't comfortable getting out of the car and coming into the building.
And sometimes it takes a lot of bribery, it takes a lot of cajoling, but you use every tool in your toolbox. And oftentimes when we were going through it, getting folks, it was bribing them with ice cream, getting people to get their arms up, oh, someone's been hitting the gym, look at those guns. Just kind of getting people excited about it. What we've learned for our next clinic is we need more chocolate ice cream.
The families were so thankful. A lot of the clients were like, hey, that kind of brought this energy to them as well. Once I'm vaccinated, once we're vaccinated, we can have some kind of normal.
We were very happy to get that opportunity because there was no other place that was offering the vaccine for her age group.
He hasn't been anywhere except to go to doctor's appointments since March 8th of last year, okay? Taco Tuesday come March 30th he's going to, huh, Sean?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I can't thank you guys enough.
It was a gift. We knew that there was just a limited opportunity, and we were trying to capitalize on it for Jack.
I feel secure and safe knowing that you guys are going to help me. It gives me a very safe feeling.
So the vaccines gave us hope, but it also gives us confidence. We're still being cautious, still being deliberate, still making sure that safety is our biggest concern. But now we're venturing out. We're opening the doors.
Our families were so grateful that this vaccine was going to be offered to their loved ones. And then the next question right after that was, so when can I see my loved one? I haven't seen them in a year, or only through a window pane. When can I see them and when can I take them home? And
I am really looking forward to him being able to be productive and go back to his day program and be among his peers and be out in the community. I can't wait for him to be out in the community again.
Today there were, looked at the comments and the residents were out, they were walking around, they're happy.
This year, there's been a lot of really hard things, and I would venture to say even more wonderful things because of it.
For me, this past year has been very difficult. I mean, for everyone, but the happiest moment I think was this last week. We had like a mini dance party and like the staff joined in, like the speech pathologist was in on it. And honestly, it was like the happiest I think I felt because the clients were so happy. For like the first time in a long time, it wasn't this like dark cloud.
Now we're anxiously waiting to see how you can, as good as you can do, begin to open things back up as we move toward normalcy.
I'm very hopeful. I really see the light at the end of the tunnel, looking into the next phase.
The mental health of all of your clients is just as important as the physical health, and that's the next probably challenge that Clearbrook is going to have, but we're confident that they'll be able to handle it.
Together, all of you and all of us can continue to make the difference that we're called to make. With your support and with our experience, we can make a great difference. And so tonight, like in the past, but more importantly because of COVID, I ask for your help and support so that Clearbrook and the Clearbrook family can continue to thrive. Your support is more crucial now than ever as we enter this next phase of the Clearbrook life. You can donate at clearbrook.org, and don't forget to bid on the auction items and purchase raffle tickets. And thank you for joining us in this virtual Shining Star Ball this year, but next year I look forward to seeing you in person.